Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition here on Atlantic Television Network. Our focus this weekend is on the 2025-2026 UEFA Champions League that has entered into the knockout stage. We'll take a look at how 12 teams were knocked out of the competition, and remaining 24 now know the teams that are seeded and the ones that are not seeded as we head towards a playoff to join in the first 8 of the tournament. So that will be our focus, and beyond that, we have maybe snippets of what to expect as well from the CAF Champions League here in Africa. We'll take a break now. When we return from a break, I'll let you know my special guest, one who is well versed in European football. And of course, Mike is here as well. Together, we'll give you up to speed with the latest happening around the UEFA Champions League and maybe some of the results of the CAF Champions League. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition here. This weekend, our focus is on the UEFA Champions League for 2025-2026 season. It started as 36 teams. Now we have just 24 teams left. We look at the categories of these 24 teams because they have been divided into groups, and we look at the teams that will feature in the group. But first, before we go into the nitty-gritty of this year's UEFA Champions League into the knockout phases, let me introduce to you my guest. First on the list is a manager of multiple radio stations here in Nigeria, Ufoma Igbamuno, one of South's best when it comes to news reportage. You might think it's just sports news. No, this is one man that has ventured into multiple news areas, including diplomacy. Ufoma, nice to have you.
What an introduction. It's good to be here, sir. Good afternoon, Rivers and beyond.
Okay, talking about introduction reminds me of my good friend China Chiru. China Chiru is on the lips of everybody, #1 Nigeria storyteller, especially in sports. Nice to have you, China.
Good afternoon, Cyril. Good to be here.
Okay, let's get started. The UEFA Champions League for 2025-2026 seasons has entered into its knockout phases. We have this season started out with 36 teams. Of course, you know of the novelty of last season's reframing of the UEFA Champions League fixtures. And now we have 24 teams that have left in the competition. Because of time, we'll go straight into looking at your impression about the teams that have crashed out. 12 teams have left. Notably, there is Napoli, there is Ajax, there is Eintracht Frankfurt, and surprising to me, Villarreal among the 12 teams that have crashed out of this year's UEFA Champions League. I'll start with you, China. Of these 4 names, are you surprised just the way I am? China, can you hear me? Okay. If China can't hear me, Ufoma, can you hear me?
Perfectly, loud and clear.
Okay, let's look at it. Napoli, Villarreal, Eintracht Frankfurt, Ajax. These are notable names in European football, but they could not make it into the round of 24 of this year's UEFA Champions League. Are you surprised?
I think of names you mentioned, the one that it's a bit of a surprise for me is Villarreal. I expected a lot more from them. Expected a lot from the Spanish side. And they were a total disappointment, a big disappointment. I'm not so surprised about Napoli because Antonio Conte historically does not do well in Europe. He doesn't. Go check his managerial record. If you want the manager to turn around a team and win you the league title, Antonio Conte is in that top 3, top 5 managers to get you that title. Did that at Chelsea, did at Juve, he's won it at Napoli, won it I think at Inter. But when it comes to playing in Europe, historically, Antonio Conte's team are quote and unquote very useless. He doesn't know how to juggle domestic football and European football in the same team, the same year rather, or the same season. But you would think that the quality of the players that he has, that at least they should be in the top 24. You would think that if you mention top 24 teams in Europe, at least you would think that Napoli should be there. So as much as I'm not surprised, it's still embarrassing for the Italian champions that they were out of the reckoning. Another name too that you did not mention is Marseille, the French team. You would think that, yes, at the end of the day, Marseille got knocked out on goal difference. I think they finished with -3, and then Benfica's last-minute goal from their goalkeeper ensured that Benfica were on -2. So that's what knocked out Marseille. But you would think that Marseille should have done better, really. Should have done better, and at least should be in the top 24 teams in Europe. All in all, it's been a good one. Ajax, maybe we just hold on to nostalgia of the Ajax of the 90s. But fair play to them. Some years ago, some 6-7 years ago, if my memory serves me right, yeah, 2018-2019 season, I thought Ajax did well, but since those group of players, immediately after that Champions League season, the rest of Europe more or less decimated that team. They've not been able to assemble another group of players into a team to get into the latter stages of Europe. So you could say on the basis of their pedigree, on the basis of the name they already have, maybe they are a disappointment. But yeah, that's my general feeling about the teams that did not make it.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have China back now? China, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, well, we've just had some, at least 5 names, what looks to me notable names in European football that have crashed out of the Champions League for 2025-2026. Like you heard the former there. He talked about Olympique Marseille. One time, finalists at the competition. I remember Olympique Marseille and, of course, Abedi Pele. There is Villarreal. Villarreal, of course, one of the best teams when it comes to European football from Spain. Napoli, Eintracht Frankfurt. I'm really, really shocked that these teams did not make it. Are you as surprised as Ufoma and myself?
I'm not surprised. You're as good as your past few games. If you don't prepare well, then you return the story of the past. You mentioned Olympique Marseille being in the final and actually winning the trophy. We lost Abedi Pele in that team, Marseille Desailly. Well, of 1993, and that was a full 33 years ago. That's a long time ago to win a European Cup. In recent times, apart from PSG, who won the Champions League last season, the French clubs have not really been up there. Monaco was in the semi-final, finally a few years back. Yeah, Porto won the cup. Monaco was in the semi-final, was in the final against Porto. But you see, the French clubs have not really done with the Champions League. For Marseille, I wasn't surprised. For Conte's Napoli, I agree with Ufoma and Conte's antecedents in Europe. But again, this group Champions League has shown us that it can be competitive to the last day. This format, now in former formats, you had groups of probably one big team, 2 big teams, and 2 underdogs, and most times by match day 4, you pretty much know who is qualifying and who is not. And a lot of times by the final match day, it's almost wrapped. But still in this format, up to the final match day, teams are struggling. Even the team that's in second place is struggling to win and remain in top 8. So it's a great format, and I think UEFA got it right this time.
UEFA got it right this time around with a new format of the UEFA Champions League. We saw some kind of it last year, and improvement from what we saw last year, because we're beginning to see maybe some of the reasons why UEFA expanded the league to as many as 36 teams. But of the 36 that started out this season, 24 is left, 12 have gone. There is actually what looks to me like 3 groups left. First, we'll look at, gentlemen, we'll look at the automatic, the top 8. These top 8 right now have been drawn by, you are aware, only a few hours ago we had the draws for the UEFA Champions League playoff knockout phase. This knockout phase has what looks like 2 groups. First, 9 to the 16 team, 9 to, yes, then the 16 to the 24th team. But first, let's look at the automatic qualifiers, those who, are seeded and have qualified for the competition. In that group, for the round of 16 I'm talking about now, is Arsenal. They came first in the league phase. They are followed by Borussia Dortmund, Bayern Munich in that in the second place position. There's Liverpool. There is Turin Hotspur from England. There is FC Barcelona from Spain. There's Chelsea. There is Sporting from Portugal. Then number 8 in that squad is Manchester City. Something striking about these 2 groups, about these top 8 teams, Ufoma. 5 of the teams are from the Premiership in England. I know you follow the Premiership so well. Are you surprised that as many as 5 out of 8, let's say knockout stage qualifiers in the round of 16 and seeded are from England?
No, I'm not. See, the name of the game is money. If you have the finances and you are able to buy the very best of players, at the end of the day, you will be very competitive. That's just the honest truth. And if you look at the transfer window over the last couple of, not couple actually, over the last decade, you might argue, the Premier League teams outspend the rest of Europe, sometimes even combined. I think the last summer's transfer window, all the other leagues, Spain, Italy, France, and Germany, all their transfer dealings combined did not match up to what the Premier League clubs spend. Now, if you are able to cherry pick the best talents from across the world, be it in Europe or be it even from these other leagues, the tendency that you are going to have super teams, quote unquote, will be the order of the day. So that's not to take anything away from the Premier League clubs, by the way. It's one thing to buy the players, it's another thing to get on the field of play and do the business. So I'm not trying to negate that side of the story. But the truth of the matter remains, 30, 35 years ago, the Serie A teams, Juve, AC, were the big guns in Europe. They were the ones buying the Zinedine Zidanes, of this world. They had the best of players. At a point in time, he shifted, to Spain, where it was Real Madrid and Barcelona. To some extent, Real Madrid and Barcelona are still up there, but the kind of dominance that they used to have in the transfer market, where the very best of players, they will play for the Liverpools and Arsenals and Manchester Uniteds of this world, but when Barca and Real Madrid come calling, they almost quickly would want to go. We've seen it reduced, a little bit. You could argue that players might be more tempted to go to Man City, Liverpool, to some extent Arsenal, maybe before they think about Real Madrid and Barcelona, partly because of the little bit of financial disparity, or maybe the amount of money in terms of weekly wages. So I think that has contributed, to this dominance we're seeing. However, unfortunately for the Premier League clubs, that dominance really has not translated when it gets to the latter stages, when it gets to the semis and winning the trophies. That dominance hasn't really shown. But we're seeing it in the group stages, and that's why this season you had 5 Premier League teams. 6 Premier League teams. 1 actually came from winning the Europa League, but 5 came via the league place. And there's every likelihood that next season in the Champions League, we will still have another 5 Premier League teams, because they're doing well now. The coefficient for the Premier League team, the clubs, or the Premier League itself is, increasing more than that of the other league. So I would want to see not just Premier League dominance in the group stages. Is good, is okay for them, but I want to see this dominance translating to 3 Premier League teams in the semis, 2 Premier League teams in the final, one of them winning. It doesn't have to be that, but it's not just enough to dominate in the group stages and then fall like a pack of cards when the knockout stages come.
Okay, China, let's still looking at the round of 16 knockout qualifiers. The first 8, like we mentioned, they are seeded. They are standing by waiting for playoff opponents to come. But like Ufoma just alluded, there is 5 of this team out of the 8. Only 1 from Portugal, 1 from Spain, and 1 from Germany. Is this an indication that in Europe, the other teams are trying to find it difficult to catch up with the Premier League side, not even a Spanish side, like we have only Barcelona on this squad?
Like Ufoma said, it's obvious. The English teams have dominated, maybe because of the money, maybe because of money well spent, but they've actually dominated, especially in the earlier stages. Now, in the later stages, Liverpool won the Champions League in 2019. Manchester City won the Champions League in 2024, a few years ago. And there was also Chelsea winning just before Liverpool won. So the English teams have not done bad in terms of winning the Champions League. If English teams win the Champions League every year, then the rest of Europe will have to be worried. But they dominated, they could do better. When you consider that they are what they call the top leagues in Europe, there's England, there's Spain, there's Germany, there's Italy, then there's France. They call it the top leagues in Europe. One of these top leagues, England can boast of, say, 4 clubs that can compete. For Germany, say Bayern Munich. For Spain, Barcelona and Real Madrid. For France, PSG. So we have at least 10 clubs that can really compete in Europe. Now, if of these 10, you have English clubs winning twice in the past 6 years, then it's something really big for English clubs. But again, this is just the group stage that has ended. The knockout phase is a different ball game entirely. Remember last season, Liverpool topped the group stage almost easily. Got knocked out in the first knockout round. So this knockout round will be very interesting. That way we can find out if this group stage dominance will transcend into the later stage like Ufoma just said earlier.
Knockout round of 16 is here with us, but first, before the knockout, there is the playoff with the seeded teams. 8 teams have been seeded in the playoff. Then there is 8 unseeded as well, still in the playoff. First, gentlemen, let's look at the 8 seeded teams in the playoff. First in that group is 9th place Real Madrid, 10th place Inter Milan is there as well. Then 11th place Paris Saint-Germain from France is there. There is 12th place Newcastle from the Premiership in England. Then there is Juventus. They are 13th placed. And in that seeded playoff group, they are from Italy, like of course you know. Then there is Atletico Madrid, Spanish side, 14 in that group. Then there's Atalanta from the Italian league, Serie A. Then Bayern Leverkusen from the German Bundesliga. These are the 8 teams in the playoff seeded group. They are seeded, meaning that they will have to play the first leg away, then return home to play. We are aware of the draws that was done a few hours ago. But before we look at the pairings, aftermath of that draw, are you surprised that what, in my own opinion, is second cadre football in Europe, these teams are there instead of being part of the first? Notable among is Real Madrid. Their successes in UEFA Champions League is legendary. No other team has won as many times as they have done in Europe. Then there is Paris Saint-Germain, everybody saw in the final last year. Are you surprised that they're having to struggle with Atalanta, maybe Juventus, and Bayern Leverkusen in this group? Real Madrid, maybe Inter Milan as well, Ufoma.
Am I surprised? Maybe not. At the end of the day, the way the new format is, everybody cannot be in the top 8. Everybody can't be. So you'll have to accrue the points you need to accrue to be in the top 8, meaning that you have spillovers. Real Madrid could have been in the top 8 if they avoided defeat on the last day. They didn't. Chelsea found a way to get into the top 8 courtesy of their away victory on the final day. If they had not won that match, Chelsea, I think, would have been out of the top 8. So at the end of the day, it depends on what you are able to do in the first 8 group matches. The good news for those teams who get into the top 8 is that they avoid 2 extra games. Trust me, in this era where there are too many matches and fatigue is already setting in, these 2 extra games is a lot of work. Even if you have a deep squad, like, for example, arguably you would say Arsenal has the deepest squad in terms of number and maybe quality across Europe. But even if it was Arsenal, playing 2 extra games in February is still going to be a problem. Because what that means is, if you're going for the title, like say a Real Madrid are in a title race with Barcelona. What that means is, the midweek that they're going to play these playoffs, the manager would have to find a way to juggle resting 1 or 2 players ahead of that midweek game. This could have an adverse effect on the league game they have to play the weekend before the match, the weekend after the match, and possibly the weekend after the second leg. So no team, I would argue, wants to have these extra 2 matches because it's a lot more work for them. Even though on the side it could be a little more money, but they would rather not have that extra little money with the extra burden it puts on the players. But it is what it is. That's why the penalty they are getting, if I might call it that, of playing 2 extra games, is not being in the top 8. And I like the fact that UEFA did it that way. It makes it competitive. It makes every game competitive. Every point, you know, in the group, every goal you score, every goal you concede really counts. Even as insignificant as yellow cards, because you might be on the same pedestal and then it comes down to disciplinary action. Yellow cards might end up being the reason why you are in the top 8 or not. And if you play the playoffs, the chances of you getting knocked out is possible. You know, while the people that have qualified for the top 8 can be rest assured. The likes of Arsenal, Bayern, Barcelona, Sporting, and Co. and Chelsea that are in the top 8, their next Champions League game is first week of March or thereabout. They're not going to be bothered about playing in Champions League until the round of 16 proper kicks off. While the rest of the teams from 9 to 24 have 2 games, you know, to play. In fact, even if you look at the pairings, I'm sure we're going to get there. Even if you think that on paper, oh, you got a slightly easy team. For example, Newcastle could argue that they got the Azerbaijan champions, Karabakh. Well, Karabakh has also shown in the Europa League and even in this Champions League that they could give you a slight run for your money. They almost beat Chelsea. I think they got a draw in the group stages, you know. So on paper, while it might look like it's not a lot of work, it is actually a lot of work playing these 2 extra games.
Okay, China, let's still look at these names because you will be surprised, right? That there's a Real Madrid in this playoff seeded team. There is Inter Milan, Paris Saint-Germain. Don't you think they should be maybe replacing Spurs in the first 8 or Sporting Lisbon from Portugal in that order? One we want to see Real Madrid, you know, on the face of it, ahead of Spurs in European football. You want to see Paris Saint-Germain or Inter Milan ahead of Sporting Lisbon in European football. But it's the reverse is the case now. It looks like if the league was to end today, it means that Sporting Lisbon is better in European football than Real Madrid, Inter Milan, and Paris Saint-Germain, in my own opinion.
But that's what it is. You have to end the points. So I'm going to say I want to see Madrid anywhere. End the points. Spurs end the points, and they're there. Madrid did not end the points, and they're where they are. So I mean, I'm not surprised. The Champions League is the best of the best. A lot of people, especially the younger generation, they have no idea how this competition started. It was once known as the Champions Cup. Champions Cup, meaning that just champions played it. Meaning that just the team that wins the league play it. So for English league, for this season, it would have been just Liverpool playing it, not 5 teams playing it or 6. For the last season, it would have been just Manchester City playing it. It was just for the champions. So it's for the top team. And when you're there, if you don't do well, you fall out. So the likes of Madrid and other clubs you called, they are just names you know. So listen, they didn't earn the points. They're out of the top 8. It's normal. I don't miss them. They can get back in reckoning by, should I say, winning the playoff round. You can get back into reckoning. But they're not in the top 8. It's because they earn the points. By the way.
It's not a death sentence. Sorry, China, to cut you.
No,
because
it's not.
PSG played the playoffs last season. Let's not forget. They played against their own French side, Brest. You know, in the play, even though they beat Brest home and away, it was easy peasy for them. You know, they played there before they got to the round of 16, and the rest is history. So, as much as 2 extra games, if you know what you are doing, if you want to win the Champions League, you have to come correct. We cannot say because we're a big team, so come and be in the top 8. Work for it.
You have to work for it if you want to be among the top teams. And so right now, Real Madrid haven't worked enough, and that's why they are in the second category of the playoff in this year's UEFA Champions League. Let's look at the third category, where we have teams numbered from 17th to the 24th. We have Borussia Dortmund, 17th place in the league this season. There is Olympiacos from Greece, 18th place. 19th place is Club Brugge from Belgium. Then Galatasaray from Turkey is 20th in the league format. Monaco that plays professional football for French league, is 21. Then 22 place is Karabakh, of course, like Ufoma did allude there. Then there's Bodo Glimt in the 23rd place, and then Benfica in the 24th place there, the last team to qualify for the playoff. All of these 8 teams are unseeded, meaning that they will have to play their first game at home and see how they can get into it. Gentlemen, this looks to me like what could be like Europa League teams in the past. But I don't know whether there's any name here that shouldn't have been in this group. Is it Monaco? Yes, they have a little bit of history in the European football. Then there is Benfica as well. But China, let me take you on this one. Benfica looks like the notable team in the last group matches that were played last weekend or within the week. We saw 8 teams, in action there. 8 games that were in action, and the match that involved Real Madrid seemed to be one that will remain in the memory of a lot of followers. Actually, it ended 4-2 against Real Madrid. It looks one match. Benfica's coach, what's his name now? Jose Mourinho was in focus. He had coached Real Madrid before, But something interesting in that fixture, they were leading 3-2, and the match was into the 8th minute of added time. And somehow, we saw goalkeeper of the side, Jubilant, being asked to join the corner kick set piece that was given. And he scored with that last header, and that took Benfica into to the playoff. And of course, actually, I saw what we have not seen before, a goalkeeper scoring in the last minute in the UEFA Champions League fixture. Real Madrid and this same side is back. Benfica is back to the playoff fixture almost immediately after that fixture. What struck you most in that fixture, China? Real Madrid versus the team from Benfica.
The thing, there was a lot of drama on that day. It was not just the Benfica and Real Madrid game. There was lots of drama. It's just that game was after the last to finish of the extended extra time. But a lot of drama between the Real Madrid Benfica game. There was a game that involved Marseille. There was a game that involved Bodo Glimt. When the team scores here, it affects the table. And that team concedes somewhere, it affects the table. So a lot of drama. It's just that by the time all the games ended, it was looking like the table was set. But the Benfica Madrid game still had about a minute or 2 to go. And that's when that high-octane drama happened. People have seen drama like that, but I don't know if I've seen something like that in the Champions League. It was pure madness on that final day, on Wednesday. For football, that's why it's called a beautiful game. We've seen it, and Mourinho said the keeper, they always knew he could do it, because in a league game just recently, where they lost to Porto, he went up front to salvage the game. He almost scored in that league game. That was Mourinho said after the game, so they knew he could do it. And when that chance came, it was like, hey, first things first, they didn't know they were going to get the free kick. But when that free kick came, why don't we throw everything in? And so the keeper had been close to scoring in a recent league game. Oh, go and see if you can score. And the kick was taken perfectly. The header was done perfectly. And here, Benfica is in the next stage of the Champions League, which at that time, they were already out. It's football. It's a beautiful game. That's why we love the game. That's why we love the game.
Ufoma, Jose Mourinho said he wasn't told before that corner kick that they needed a 4th goal. He felt that at 3-2 they were ready to get into the playoff. But somehow someone whispered to him that they needed just one more goal, and that was how he had to instruct the goalkeeper to join, going by what they have done in training before. Do you think this is coming from the back door? That is on one side, and look at it again. By fate, the draws have put the two of them back together immediately after that fixture. Do you think there's still something that we have not seen than what we saw in that first fixture?
I think for some of us who are football fans or enthusiasts, the pick of the bunch for me is that Real Madrid Benfica game. Is what I wanted. When I saw the pairings, you could determine who could meet who. And when I saw that was a possibility, one out of two chances that it could happen, it was what I wanted, and that's exactly what the fixtures gave to us. So it's going to be pure box drama. Benfica are a traditional name, in European football. Their manager, the less I talk about him, the better. A former Real Madrid manager, let's not forget. So Benfica are not doing well in the league. I think they're about 8 or 9 points behind Porto in the Portuguese league. So all the eggs, so to speak, are in the basket of Europe. That being said, you did mention something earlier when you talked about the names, the guys in the playoff rounds being Europa League cadre, so to speak. You might want to say that, but then again, every team that is where they are right now have earned the rights to be there. By the time we were done with match day 6 of Champions League and it was remaining 2 matches, I'm not sure there's anybody who gave Bodo Glimt a chance to be in the top 24. Bodo Glimt's last 2 games for the Champions League was playing Manchester City in their house in Norway and going to the Wanda Metropolitano Stadium to play Atletico Madrid. Again, like I said, nobody gave them a chance. Bodo Glimt convincingly beat Manchester City. It wasn't a fluke. And then just when you think that, oh, okay, that's football, it can happen, a week later, they went to a stadium that Atleti have not lost in the Champions League, I think, this season. And Atleti rarely lose at home. And they beat them there convincingly to come from a goal down. Bodo Glimt were in the semi-finals of the Europa League last season. I think they lost to Tottenham. Yeah, Tottenham beat them on their way to winning the Europa League. So, while they might not have the biggest history, in football, write them off at your own peril. That's all I'm going to say. Bayer Leverkusen yet have dropped in form since their invincible season 2 seasons ago. But then, they still have quality. They can ruin you at any point in time. So, while on paper you would think that the likes of PSG, the likes of Newcastle, the likes of Real Madrid, who are the traditional big names, should get past their opponents. We've seen this happen in football. You still have to go on the field of play and get and earn your result.
Okay, let's just take a break now. When we return from the break, we'll look at the pairings of the playoff, both for the teams that have been drawn so far. Like we told you, we have 16 teams that are into the playoff, 1 seeded, 8 seeded, and 8 unseeded. Pairings has been done. Just one is what we talked about, which is the Real Madrid, Benfica, Real Madrid fixture. There's other 7 fixtures that we'll look at when we return from break. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition. This weekend, our focus is on the 2025-2026 UEFA Champions League that has entered into the knockout round of 16, and we'll look at the pairings of the seeded and unseeded side. The first 8 teams are standing by, but the last 16 teams will be into action from, I think, 18th of February, and pairings have been done. First, we told you about Benfica hosting Real Madrid in the first of the 8. Then let's look at the second. China, let me look at Atalanta versus Borussia Dortmund. Atalanta, of course, you know, they are of the Italian Serie A. Then Dortmund from the German Bundesliga. How average can this pairing be?
The pairing between Dortmund and
Borussia Dortmund and Atalanta from Italy.
For me, these are just 2 almost evenly matched sides. From a few years ago, it would have been a very exciting fixture. 3 seasons back, Atlanta was a very high-scoring side, and we enjoyed watching Atlanta play. But I don't know what's happening to them these days. You don't score as much, not as exciting as before. Dortmund, a few years back, very exciting to watch. But for now, it will be a battle of 2 sides who just wish to qualify for the next stage of the Champions League, rather.
Okay, Ufoma, let's get to what looks like a familiar route now for Paris Saint-Germain. Last time, they had Brest, lowly rated side in the French league to play to qualify. Now they have another French side, Monaco, to try to leap into the quarterfinal stage. Can Paris Saint-Germain, who is seeded in this fixture, have the advantage over FC Monaco? Ufoma, did you get me?
Sorry, I was talking. I did not know my mic was muted.
Okay.
I was saying that they have the better players on paper, and in their recent meetings, I think they have Monaco's numbers. However, I've seen PSG 4 or 5 times in the league this season. I haven't been convinced. It feels there's something that's missing, and I can't place my hands on it. It feels like something is missing from that team. I honestly cannot place my hands on it. But then again, let's not forget that that's how they were not convincing in the first half of last season, and then from the turn of the year, late December, early January, they went on that mad, crazy form. That saw them disperse the whole of Europe and, won the Champions League. So on paper, you think that they have the advantage, but never say never. Monaco are a team that know them, and there's that huge change. The goalkeeper that replaced Donnarumma in goal for PSG has not been convincing. I've seen him throw a few clangers here and there, and that kind of assured performance they used to have from defense to attack, I haven't seen it even in the Champions League matches this season. So I think that's a game to watch for the roundup, for the playoffs.
Okay, for Nigerians, China, this fixture will interest them a lot. Galatasaray of Turkey, it will be at home against Juventus. Juventus is seeded in this fixture. But there is Victor Osimhen, who is notably one of the known strikers in Europe. But this is a platform to actually embellish his form in European football.
Talking about embellishing his form, he has done that already. He has scored great goals in Europe, from being a Napoli player to being a Galatasaray player. Even this season, he has scored great goals in the league and in the Champions League. So I think about embellishing his form, he has done that already. Nigerians are watching because he's our poster boy these days. He's the poster boy of Nigerian football, so that game will interest a lot of Nigerians. And Nigerians are watching not just because they want to see him score goals, they are watching because they feel that he should be playing for a bigger club. And maybe if he scores more goals in the Champions League, then that bigger club will come for him. On his own part, he wants to score, not just for himself, but for his club, because you want to get to the next stage. For Juve, they've been quite silent in Europe recently, but again, they're Juventus. Why would they want to get to the next stage? So it's a big game, whichever way you look at it, whether from the Nigerian perspective, from the Italian perspective, or from the neutral perspective, it will be a great game to watch.
A great feature it will be to watch. And Ufoma, will it be nice? Will it be a great game for you to watch Club Brugge against Atletico Madrid? One team that has struggled to make an impact in the top level European football. Ufoma, can you check your mic that you are not muted this time around? Ufoma.
Can I just this from that he comes back in?
Okay, yes, yeah. Karabakh, Club Brugge versus Atletico Madrid, China.
I think it looked like a game that will be a dull game to me, both legs. Club Brugge have not really been that big in Europe. For Atletico, their style of play is so pragmatic, so rigid. They hardly concede, they hardly score, just the odd goal, and they go through. So it's really not a game that I would like to watch for me. I want to see more excitement than a game that has Club Brugge and Atletico Madrid.
Okay, well, we'll hope to get Ufoma back on the via. I hope Agala will get to.
I'm here.
Okay, nice to have you back, Ufoma, and I think we missed you on Atletico Madrid versus Club Brugge. But look at Carabao Cup, the fixture involving Newcastle, the other team from the Premiership in England, against Carabao. They are a team that have been around in the last 3 seasons, consistent in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. I did mention them. I did mention, them earlier. We saw them against Chelsea. For the guys, who focus on Premier League matches, and they almost actually won that game. Yeah, you could argue Chelsea had a few players out here and rested a few players here and there, but it was still a decent Chelsea side. And like you did mention, over the last couple of seasons, they have been quite good on the European stage. Newcastle themselves have struggled with playing both in Europe and in the league at the same time, reminiscent of what happened to them 3 seasons ago when they were also in the Champions League. At the end of the day, Newcastle will have to come good. I think they're going to be playing about 8 or 9 matches this February. This new month we're about to enter. That puts a strain on the squad. It puts a strain on even the manager selection and all of that. And if you have 1 or 2 injuries, it adds to the issue. Of course, Carabao themselves know that they are the underdogs here. Whatever comes out of this game, win or lose, is good for them. They are putting themselves out there, on the European map. The onus is on Newcastle, to actually do what needs to be done in this particular game.
China, Bodo Clint, and new Inter Milan. Inter Milan ordinarily should be ahead of them. They are seeded, no doubt about it, but they can be a tricky tie for the Italian champions.
Yes, can be tricky, and Bodo have not done badly in Champions League this season. They might be that underdog that people underrate, and they just keep pushing on until they meet their last bus stop. Inter Milan also plays pragmatic football, and they want to win too. But if they sleep, then you might just see Bodo Glimt getting the edge against them. Was not the same Bodo Glimt that beat Atletico Madrid in the last day of play. So yes, we shouldn't look down on them. So for those that want to watch football and get a little bit of excitement, right, from the unknown, I would recommend they watch that game, Inter Milan versus Bodo Glimt.
Okay, Ufoma, let's look at the last fixture in that playoff series. Bayern Leverkusen, a team that has been in the shadow of top-level European football, up against Olympiacos, the team too who barely get to the crucial stages of Champions League football in Europe.
that is another cracking game. I think I saw a bit of banter between the Olympiacos social media handle and Bayer Leverkusen deals. I think it was yesterday or so. But both teams actually have good records against themselves. In fact, one of the games they played, I'm not sure again if it's Champions League or one of the Europa League games. Olympiacos actually won that game 6-2. You know, that's how good they can be. And I remember that, I think it was the first game of the first game of the Champions League round. It was Arsenal versus Olympiacos. Arsenal won that game by 2-0. But trust me, after the Gunners went 2-up, I think in the 30th minute or thereabout, the remainder of that game, you could argue that Olympiacos had a better faring. Yes, there were 2 goals down. You could say, okay, maybe that's why they came out. But guess what? In the second game of the group stages, they went to Barcelona Stadium, and I think they took the lead in that one. They ended up losing. Was it 2-1? Was it 2-1 or 5-1? I can't remember the scoreline again. They ended up losing that match, but they also gave a good account of themselves. And after those 2 matches in the first group games of the Champions League, I more or less just put a note or a question mark, so to speak, on Olympiacos. And I'm wondering what is it that they're going to do in the Champions League this season. And I'm not surprised that they're in the playoffs. It's not like Bayer Leverkusen themselves have been pulling up trees, you know. It's not like they've been great in the Bundesliga or they've been absolutely amazing even in Europe. So I think that game is another evenly balanced game where we could be in for a 50-50 kind of setting, or maybe Leverkusen just slightly shading it 51-49. That's one game for the neutral to keep their eyes on.
Okay, gentlemen, we've just run out of time, but I'll give each of you 1 minute each to react to our sports extraordinaire for this weekend. And it couldn't have been any other person than Kylian Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe have scored 12 goals out of 7 fixtures in European football 2025-2026 football season. And it looks like he's almost getting close to Ronaldo's record of, I think, 17 goals or thereabout. What do you make of Kylian Mbappe playing for his new side with 12 European goals, you know, out of 7 fixtures? Quickly, Chana, start with you, 1 minute.
I went off for a bit, so maybe Ufoma can start.
Okay, Ufoma, go ahead.
You're muted again.
Okay, China, let me get your reaction about Kylian Mbappe. 12 goals in 7 matches in Europe this season, looking very close to getting 17, record held by Cristiano Ronaldo.
Listen, I don't think anyone has doubted Mbappe since he burst into the scene as a 16, 17-year-old at Monaco. He has done the business, he has scored the goals, he has kept his head up, he has scored in the World Cup, he has scored at every stage. So listen, we just can't be surprised. He could break that record, he may not, but he's going to do the business eventually. He's the world's #1 striker right now. That's between him and Erling Haaland. So I'm not really surprised.
Thank you very much, Chana. And if we have Ufoma react under 30 minutes, yeah. Yes, for Kylian Mbappe, 12 goals.
I was saying that the numbers don't lie. Even last season, when Kylian Mbappe divided the Real Madrid fan base, you know, his numbers were still there. He scored the goals, important goals too. But about the record was always going to be broken. Don't forget that there are at least 2 matches for teams right now with this new format in the group stages. And now Real Madrid are going to play 2 extra games again. That's before we even get to the round of 16, and depending on where, you know, they go further. So chances that Kylian Mbappe will break the record, you know, be it this season or somebody else breaking it next season, will be there.
Thank you very much.
Kylian Mbappe's issue would be, yeah.
Well, we seem to have run out of time. Thank you very much, guys, for coming. Chano Cheru and, of course, Ufoma Agbamuno, 2 guys who are very vast in European football. I must say, some of the brightest of the guys from the south of Nigeria. Thank you very much. And that will be it for this edition of Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition. Next weekend, we'll be back with yet another bumper edition. Until then, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Always enjoy here on Atlantic Television Network.